Hello everyone, this is Randy here, and today I'm going to talk about the most dangerous lie in society. This is a lie that you've been told. This is a lie that I've been told. And in fact, if you have post-secondary education, if you have a university degree, it's certainly you've been told this lie, exposed to this lie, and you probably and most likely feel the impact of this lie. You feel it in the form of nagging, anxiety, a suffocating feeling, a feeling of unhappiness. All of these are implications and physical embodiments of your internalization and absorption of this lie. And some people don't realize that they go about their entire lives believing this lie. They die believing this lie, and they live their life unfulfilled. So, what is this lie? What is this dangerous lie that we are all taught? It takes on many forms, and it has many variations. But in essence, it goes something like this. It starts usually around the time a child enters either elementary school or high school, around the time a child hits puberty. Usually this is when the lie begins, and it's perpetuated by teachers, by one's parents, and by society at large. It goes something like this. You have to study, and you have to work hard. And in return, if you satisfy these metrics, you will be rewarded. There will be a reward. For example, you will get into the university program of your choice, one that you want. So starting from high school, kids are taught that they have to study, they have to aim for that A+, they have to work hard, they have to be disciplined to get into that university program or the school that they want to get into. And once they're in university, the lie continues. You gotta work hard, you gotta study, you gotta sacrifice in order to get the job that you want, in order to be hired by your preferred employer, in order to work for the companies that you want to work for. And once you achieve that, once you get hired, once you work for those companies, once you get your dream job, the lie continues. You have to be diligent, you have to sacrifice, you have to work hard, you have to make money. And when do you get to rest? When do you finish this trajectory? When does the race end? Well, it ends when you retire, they say. It only ends when you retire and finally you get to catch a break at the very tail end of your life. That is the trajectory. So what happens to people who believe in this lie? And trust me, it is a lie. Well, first of all, one of the most important things is when this lie is taught to young children, children begin to distinguish productive things from non-productive things, right? So certain things are good, productive things, productive actions, productive behavior that generate desirable results. So that could be studying, doing one's homework, finishing assignments, pleasing teachers, pleasing parents, these things are productive. What's not productive? Rest. Rest is not productive. Play. Oh, that's childish. That's not productive. Seeing friends. Nope, not productive. Developing certain hobbies. No, you don't have time for that. You have to study, right? To study so you can get into the university of your choice, so that you can get the job of your choice, so that you can eventually make lots of money and retire, right? So goes the lie. So we end up creating this binary, and this binary is productive versus unproductive things, and we are encouraged throughout our life to do these productive things. So in school, again, that means studying. It means doing your assignments, doing your homework, getting the A+. These are productive activities. And then once you graduate, work becomes productive, right? Work is the productive activity. It's just a carryover from the same ideology. Responding to your emails, responding to clients, doing work, creating, tangible results, completing projects, satisfying your boss, delivering your deliverables on time, being responsive, being responsible, doing more, time managing yourself so you can do more, do it better, create better results for your company, for your organization, for your business, get that promotion, make more money. These are productive activities. What's not productive? Rest. That's not a productive activity. Spending time with friends, we have to cut that out. Vacations, well, only when it's deserved, right? Part of the ideology is that rest and play and time for friends and time for ourselves, that we only get if we deserve it. It's only given to us if we accomplish certain things, if we hit certain targets, certain performance targets. So in order to rest, in order to play, in order to deserve these things, you have to hit the targets first. You have to finish your homework in order to play games. You have to complete your assignments or get your A+ in order to have fun and take a break. Now, I'm not here to say that education is a bad thing. Education is wonderful. I think everyone should be educated. Nor am I bashing the school system or the labor market, nor am I bashing that in its entirety. What I'm saying is that in order to get young children to become disciplined and to convince them to delay their gratification, and in order to get them to become top students and then eventually top employees, it requires a certain amount of indoctrination. And at first, this indoctrination takes on the form of external pressure, where parents or teachers discipline you through shame, criticism, punishment. They discipline you into doing things you don't want to do, right? School work, and then later on in life, work is almost defined as things that you don't want to do. Nobody really wants to do this. You do it because there are external rewards, validation, acceptance, and then later on, financial rewards later on in life. The A+ that you get in school, they turn into paychecks, right? But at the end of the day, these are external validators. These are predominantly activities, doing one's homework and then later on in life, doing one's work as part of one's job. Predominantly for the vast majority of people in the world. And there are exceptions. There are exceptions to everything. But for the vast majority of people in the world, they go to work, they go to school, not because they want to inherently, but because they are taught this is the way to do things in order to succeed, in order to reap the rewards available in life. You have to do these things. And that's almost the definition of work, don't you think? Doing things that you don't want to do. If you wanted to do it, it wouldn't be work. So is the common concept around work. If you wanted to do it and it was enjoyable, it would be play. It wouldn't be work. Work, by its very nature, is something that we don't want to do, something that is adverse, something that we must do, but we don't want to. So how do you convince a child to do something that they don't want to do? Well, you discipline that child. You convince that child. You pressure that child. You convince and encourage. Hopefully there's more encouragement than discipline. But often it's more on the realm of discipline rather than encouragement. Depending on parenting style, depending on which teachers you got in life, most people receive negative incentives rather than positive incentives. Most people get the message, if you don't do this, bad things will happen to you, rather than if you do this, good things will happen to you. Most people get negative incentives, right? To avoid punishment, to avoid discipline, you should do this, rather than doing something in order to receive, inherent pleasure from that activity. So these kids, I was one of them. I'm sure you were one of these kids. You were taught. We forgot these lessons. Not that we forgot the lessons, we forgot that we received these lessons because they're so ingrained. We were taught to do our homework, to work hard, to do things that we didn't want to do, i.e. work, schoolwork, and then later on in life, work, work in the real world, whatever that means. But how do you convince a child to do that? Well, at first, again, it's external discipline, external forces, but then something really interesting happens right around the time that a young adult reaches the age where they can go to university. Because at university, there is not that constant parental pressure or pressure from professors. You essentially, at least in the West, you essentially get to create your own schedule to a certain degree, choose courses that you want to take, self-direct your learning to a certain degree, and you have a certain degree of freedom to work when you want to work. That's the beauty of university, and that it allows a certain degree of freedom. So how do people succeed in an environment that gives them this degree of freedom? How do people even motivate themselves to keep going? Well, the trick, and this is part of the lie, the trick is that this ideology and that this messaging, that the lie itself then has been internalized by the individual. You're feeling the whip of your parents, of your teachers, of societal expectations, but they are no longer there physically delivering the message to you. You have absorbed the message. You are now hearing that voice inside your own head, whether you know it or not. It's been ingrained subconsciously and consciously to some extent. You now hear that voice. The voice that says you must work, you must perform, you must excel, and that you cannot rest and you cannot play until you have done these things, hit these metrics. And this is what propels a great number of people through university and into their future professional degrees or master's degrees and into the workforce. This messaging that's been internalized. And it is one of the only ways that you can go through 4 years of undergrad or another 3 years of law school on top of that, or med school, or to complete your master's. You must have this level of self-motivation. This self-motivation is essential, because otherwise you would quit. You wouldn't have completed all of your schooling, or you would have quit. You would have left. You would have created an exit for yourself. So in order to complete your education, to some degree, everyone who's completed university, everyone who's completed a professional degree or a master's, you have some version of this embedded inside you. It forms a collective emotional tattoo that we all share. A collective emotional tattoo etched into your psyche. And what are the implications? Why is this a bad thing? Well, you feel it, don't you? You feel the anxiety? I'm sure you do. Statistically, I know you do. Because 1/3 of all university students are actively reporting that they have severe anxiety. We're not just talking about a little bit of anxiety. We're talking about severe anxiety. Statistically, 1/3. The anxiety, depression rates at work are sky high. As an employment lawyer, I deal with clients on a day-to-day basis who express to me their dissatisfaction with their work. The suffocating anxiety they experience in the workplace. Many of them go on disability leave. It's really bad. It's really bad. It's bad for students. It's bad for people at work. It's this prevalent, unstoppable, nagging, suffocating anxiety that we all feel. It comes from, to a large extent, the internalization of this lie is that we must be productive at all times. We must perform. We must perform perfectly. We're not allowed to make mistakes. Mistakes are dangerous. Mistakes are unwanted. We have to always be performing. Do you ever feel anxious when for example, you're resting and not performing, and you feel anxious that you must be doing something, you have to be doing something? Most people who've completed university have some degree of that. Most people in the workforce have some degree of that. I need to be doing something. I feel anxious when I'm not doing something. I need to be productive. Well, that's the internalization of the lie. That play is bad, rest is bad, and that you only get to enjoy that after you've completed your assignments. And even once you've completed your assignments, you're looking for new assignments to complete. There is no end to this. Trust me, there is no end to this. You're just looking for more assignments to complete. Your email inbox never goes to zero, right? You can't eliminate new emails coming in. At work, you are rewarded with more work once you complete work. There is no end to this. The more work you complete, the more work shows up on your desk. It continues, the cycle continues. It's indefinite. You cannot rest. You are not allowed to rest. It just keeps going on and on and on. We thought, and this is where the lie comes in, we thought that after we worked hard in high school, that you got those A+, those bright, shiny A+, that once we got to university, the stress would disappear, right? We were almost given that promise that you just have to study hard now, and that stress will go away, the anxiety will go away, you can relax. But once we get into university, the lie continues. You have to work hard, and once you get your job, Once you finish school, that's when life begins. That's when life begins, right? Not now. Life begins into the future. Life begins in the future, not now. You have to delay your gratification. So life is only in the future. It's never in the present. So you have to work hard, study hard, sacrifice. Sacrifice more so you can get your perfect job, so you can be employed at the company of your choice. And once you're a young employee, a new employee, a junior employee at these organizations, then you realize that the lie continues, where most of us don't realize, in fact. But you have to work now, and then you only get to enjoy the fruits of life once you retire, right? You work 30, 40 years. And only at the end, you get to enjoy rest. You don't get to enjoy rest in the meantime. No, there is no rest for you. It's only at the end of the journey. So the lie is perpetuated. We're taught that if you finish this stage, good things happen at the next stage. And the one which we reach the next stage, we're taught that good things only happen after this stage, at the next stage. And once we reach the next stage, we're taught that it only happens after that. You know what happens to people when they retire? For the majority of people, they're not at their healthiest when they retire. When they stop working, they suddenly realize, a lot of them, that they have no purpose in life. A lot of people have a lot of difficulty adjusting to retirement. They realize they've been working all their life and they don't know how to relax or rest. They fall into depression, they fall into uselessness, they fall into confusion. This happens to a lot of people when they retire. Because for years, for 40, 50 years, they've had one way of doing things. And they've been taught to be productive, to hit these targets, to perform, to receive this external validation, and to think in a particular way, in a disciplined way, especially for high-performing individuals. You know, high-performing students who become high-performing employees, who become the vice presidents, and then they retire and suddenly they realize, wow, what do I do now? What do I do now? You finally accomplished it, my friends. You reached retirement. You've survived. And now you have no purpose. Because all of it was a lie. All of it was a lie. You know the funniest thing? The funniest thing is that when people retire, they now have the time to do the things they want to do, right? They're free to enjoy themselves. They have rest time finally to not have to be disciplined and not have to be pressured to do things they don't want to do, so-called work. Do you know what that reminds me of? That state of not having to do work, that state of freedom, the state of play. Do you know what that reminds me of? That reminds me of childhood. Don't you find that ironic? That you go through your entire life, and as a child, when you have this time and you're playing and you're carefree, you're taught by your parents, by society, by teachers that that's childish. You need to stop that. Stop playing with your toys. You need to do serious things, big things for big boys and big girls, important things, productive things. So you're taught to stop playing, that playing is bad, homework is good. But after you retire, you go back to that stage. Don't you think there's a certain irony that at retirement you are finally allowed to be a child again? That you can finally be carefree? It's almost like before you were educated, you are then allowed to return to that state of childish innocence or childlike innocence, where you have the carefree time, where you don't have the obligations. Or after 40, 50 years, you go backwards and the cycle is complete. And you have a couple more years before you inevitably die. That's the lie. The lie robs children and young adults and adults in general of the enjoyment of life. It says to children, There are productive things and unproductive things. You need to cut out the unproductive things and be productive. And then throughout your life, you're productive until one day you can stop being productive and be a child again, or at least do the things that you once were allowed to do, being carefree, playing, having freedom of thought, freedom of mind, and free from obligations. You're allowed to go back to that, and then you're an old person. You're an old man, an old woman. Your health may not be the greatest. Your opportunities may be limited by the decline in your health. You spent your entire life working, and you have a couple years left to enjoy it. Is that really worth it? Is that really worth it? That is the lie. The lie is that there's always something better at the end of the rainbow, and if you sacrifice now, if you delay your gratification, you get that. But you don't. You don't. That's the lie. I understand why the lie exists. The lie exists in part to motivate people, to discipline people so we can form a society that is productive. Productivity is not inherently a bad thing. I understand why the lie is told and why the lie is taught. I understand that. There's a reason for it. There's a reason for everything. But nevertheless, it is a lie because there is nothing better at the end of the rainbow. You don't get to graduate from life with a pocket full of happiness. It just doesn't happen that way. You just work, and then you die if you follow the trajectory of this lie. Because you're not actually living your life. Because life happens in the present. You're not being present. You're always doing stuff for the future. You're not actually enjoying the nuances of the life that you are living. And you feel it, don't you? You feel it in the anxiety. And the anxiety is actually a really powerful tool. Contrary to popular belief, anxiety is actually not a bad thing. Anxiety is a teacher, and anxiety is a signal. Your anxiety is telling you that something is inherently, dangerously wrong. It's telling you that there is an imbalance. It's telling you that you are uncomfortable. Your anxiety is a signal. Your anxiety is actually trying to teach you something. And if you have nagging anxiety, suffocating, chronic anxiety, it means that there is a strong disconnect between the way that you are living your life and the way that you should be living your life. Your anxiety, if you feel that anxiety of having to do more, of having to be perfect, of having to work more, if you feel that anxiety of having to always be productive, having to be disciplined, to time manage, to just always perform at your optimal, if you feel that, whether it's at work, whether it's at school, if you feel that level of discomfort, it means that your lifestyle is deeply incongruent with how you should be living your life. That you've absorbed, unfortunately, like the rest of us, the toxicity of this lie, of this villainous ideology that has its purpose, but we must shed ourselves of it. The purpose is to create a functional, productive society. At a certain point, kids need to be taught discipline. That's correct. They need to be educated, and we need bright, productive members in our workforce. That's all good. All of these are good things. But at the individual level, if you absorb this lie to the core, it will kill you. It will also ensure that you have a miserable, miserable life, one where you cannot truly be free. So listen to your anxiety. Do not fight your anxiety. Your anxiety is your teacher. Your anxiety is trying to show you the way. And it's telling you that how you're living your life is not congruent with how you should be living your life. Play is good. Rest is good. Building relationships with your friends is good. Enjoying yourself is good. I'm not here to promote hedonism or drug use or irresponsible pleasure seeking, but pleasure seeking is a good thing. Playing is a good thing. Rest and relaxation is a good thing. You deserve these things, and you must give yourself permission. You must give yourself permission to enjoy rest and play, because no one else will give you that permission. And in fact, that permission was taken away from you. You were not permitted to rest, to play. You must give yourself that permission to truly live. And once you're able to understand that, your anxiety will go away. Your anxiety will go away because it no longer needs to warn you that you're living an unbalanced life. That's the lie. And we must recognize the lie and fight against it to reach our full potential as human beings and to be able to live freely in the present as we were meant to live.